Survivor Series WarGames is live from Chicago this coming Saturday, and I will be live on YouTube after the show. Now, I'm doing these predictions here on a Sunday. There could be another match added during the week. We know Roman Reigns is not on the show. Logan Paul, the other champion on SmackDown, is not on the show. As of today, the World Heavyweight title is not on the line either, unless there's some dramatic change in the card tomorrow night, where Seth Rollins is pulled from WarGames and he defends in a rematch against Drew McIntyre. That doesn't seem very likely. The tag team titles are on the line this Friday night, with the Judgment Day defending against the Street Profits, who won a number one contenders match on SmackDown. They can't well have Balor and Priest defending the titles at the pay-per-view if they're in a WarGames match. I mean, who do they think they are, MJF? So they're going to do the tag team title match on Friday night instead. I would love to see one traditional Survivor Series elimination match added. But right now there is none, so here is the card. In the women's WarGames match, we have Damage CTRL, Bayley, Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Asuka taking on the team of Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Shotzi, and Becky Lynch, who was added to the team on Friday night. And how are they determining which team gets the advantage? Through an online poll, sponsored by Ruffles Potato Chips. So they're doing a fan vote, which means we know which team is going to be getting the advantage in WarGames. On Friday, Charlotte Flair had to make a decision. She had to make a phone call to somebody. Nick Aldis wanted an answer by the end of the night about who their partner would be. And that person turned out to be Becky Lynch, who has a match with Xia Li on Raw tomorrow night, because she is a Raw star. She is the only Raw star in this women's WarGames match, which is filled with SmackDown talent. But they wanted a big name in there, and they really didn't have another great option. Right? The other women on the show that were viable for this were Mi Chin and Zelina Vega. Jade Cargill could have been a choice, but her first match being a WarGames match, that doesn't seem very wise to me. And Becky had no match on the show at all. They wanted her to be on the show, so they went with Becky Lynch. Now, I had forgotten that they basically ran the exact same angle 1 year ago, where Bianca Belair recruited Becky as her surprise fifth member to challenge Damage CTRL. So they recycled the same angle 2 years in a row. Last year, the babyfaces won and Damage CTRL lost. This year, that gets flipped. I have Damage CTRL winning. The babyfaces will be on the losing end. I think this is exactly why Shotzi is in the match. My God, you look at the lineup for this match. Charlotte, Becky, Bianca, Bayley, Io, Asuka, Kairi, Shotzi. She sticks out like a sore thumb. I know Shotzi had a little feud there for a while with Damage CTRL, but she has no business being in this match. I think she's only in there to take the losing fall because they don't want Charlotte, Becky, or Bianca to take the loss. So Shotzi is going to be the sacrificial lamb. We all know that Bayley is going to get booted out of Damage CTRL. It's only a matter of when. It's not a matter of if. I don't think it happens on Saturday. I think it's going to be teased, but I don't think they put the knife in her back just yet. We have Santos Escobar, one-on-one with Carito. Escobar had his first promo on SmackDown Friday night since his heinous attack on Rey Mysterio, who is now out, by the way, with a legitimate knee injury. The story, it was House of Wrestling that first reported that Mysterio has been working through a torn meniscus for about 3 months. And the injury progressively got worse, so he agreed to lose the U.S. title to Logan Paul at Crown Jewel. He would do the beatdown angle on TV the following week, and then he would go off and have his knee operated on. He is expected to be out of action for about 6 to 8 weeks. And if everything goes according to plan, that would put him back around the time of the Royal Rumble, which means he would be back in time for WrestleMania season. So it's not like an ACL situation or anything where he's out 6 to 9 months. 6 to 8 weeks, he should be back in time, no problem. But that would also explain why the Escobar turn coming out of Crown Jewel. This was the first TV coming out of the Saudi Arabia show, and they went right to the attack. So why it felt so rushed is because Rey was hurt and he was going away to have surgery, so they decided to incorporate that into the storyline. So Escobar came out. I thought he had a very good promo explaining why he did what he did on Friday. We had the other members of the LWO come out, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, and he wanted them to all be together like old times, and they just couldn't get over what he did to Rey, so he attacked them. He said, look, you're dead weight, I don't need you, and he attacked them. So I figured where this was headed was Rey Mysterio, Carlito, and Dragon Lee, who tried to stick up for Rey on Friday. He went to Nick Aldis, he requested a match with Escobar, which he did not give him. But it would be Rey, Carlito, and Dragon Lee taking on Legado del Fantasma. And then we would eventually go on to Mysterio one-on-one against Escobar at WrestleMania. Because, Triple H has been pushing Dragon Lee hard on TV. So they have bigger plans for him and him getting the endorsement from Rey Mysterio. I think for Dragon Lee, I think that's the ticket. Meltzer is now saying that Angel and Humberto, Los Lotharios, who have been working on the NXT brand recently, are being talked about for a potential call-up to align with Santos Escobar. I guess to replace Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro, who Escobar attacked. I just don't know where that leaves Wilde and del Toro if Rey comes back and he's got Carlito and Dragon Lee at his side. But it could be that they want to keep the LWO alive, since it sells a lot of merch. And so the new LWO might be Rey, Carlito, maybe Dragon Lee, Zelina Vega, and they keep Wilde and del Toro in there. Maybe that's the plan here. But he attacked them. I mean, he laid them out on Friday, so it doesn't look like they have any plans of keeping Escobar together with them. But I have every expectation that Escobar is winning this match against Carlito on Saturday. We have Gunther defending the Intercontinental Championship against the former 8-time Intercontinental Champion, The Miz. Gunther did an interview this week with Steve Fall for WrestlingNews.co. And he was asked about the Intercontinental title being in the main event potentially of Night 1 of WrestleMania 40 next year. Gunther shot down that idea, and he noted that Seth Rollins earned his spot there, but he also said that he believes he has outgrown the title, and he is ready to take that next step. He said that's not going to happen, but I think there's a ranking system and everything for a reason. I think it's quite obvious that I outgrew the Intercontinental Championship already. I am ready to take that next step. He's been ready to take that next step. I mean, this is not some new phenomenon here. He's been ready for a while. Now, they can do it at WrestleMania, or they could have him defend and lose the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, and then begin his march to the world title. I still think him challenging Seth Rollins for the title is the way to go. But there's also the Sami Zayn story. That he sees himself as world championship material, and he believes, one day I'm going to be the world champion. He wants to win the big gold belt to prove it. Do you have Sami Zayn win the Royal Rumble next year? I don't hear his name mentioned enough as a possibility. I hear Cody's name mentioned. I hear LA Knight's name. I hear Gunther. I don't hear Sami Zayn. Right? Then he gets to choose. Does he go after Roman Reigns again? Or does he go after the World Heavyweight title, right? And who has the world title come WrestleMania? Is it still Seth Rollins or is it Drew McIntyre? Rollins, McIntyre, and Sami Zayn. That could be the main event for Night 1, triple threat. Sami wins the world title and then drops it to Gunther at Bash in Berlin next summer, right? That's one possibility. Or does Gunther win the world title first? And maybe the following year, Sami Zayn is the one to dethrone him for the championship, right? Might be more satisfying to have Sami beat Gunther for it one-on-one. Let that story play out a little bit longer instead of belting Sami at WrestleMania next year. So you see, there's different ways that you could approach this. I don't hate any of those scenarios. As long as Gunther is in the mix, it's really the only thing that matters. But there is that issue of the Sami Zayn story that they've been teasing. And I do think that ultimately he will end up with that world title. That's really the only question, though. Do you really want to plan that far ahead, looking to like WrestleMania 41, and say, okay, we're going to give Gunther a year, right? We don't need another 3.5 years of a world title run, but let's give him a year as the world champion and build to Sami being the one to dethrone him. Or do you just go ahead and build the story around Sami and WrestleMania in Philadelphia? And he wins the title, he gets maybe 6 months with it, and then he drops it to Gunther, and then Gunther goes on and has his run. It really kind of boils down to who you want to be the person to dethrone him when that time comes. And I'm not talking about the IC title. I'm talking about the World Heavyweight title. The Women's World Championship is on the line. Rhea Ripley defends against Zoe Stark. Rhea Ripley is not losing her title at Survivor Series. She's going to win the match. I expect them to have a very good match, but the outcome to me is not in doubt. And then in the Men's WarGames match, it will be the Judgment Day, captained by Damian Priest, with Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio, and the newest member of the Judgment Day, JD McDonough. JD is officially in the JD. Against Team Cody. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn. Right now, it's 4-on-4. I expect that to change on Raw tomorrow night. At the end of last week's show, Drew McIntyre, he cost Cody and Jey the possibility of regaining those tag team titles. He gave Jey Uso a Claymore kick, and then he stood side by side with Rhea Ripley to close out the show. What I'm expecting is McIntyre to be added to Team Judgment Day to make it 5-on-4. And like we saw on Friday night, with Charlotte and Bianca and Shotzi, the baby faces are going to be forced to find a partner, and that partner will turn out to be Randy Orton. That's how you get Randy Orton back on TV. Now, Cody Rhodes was on SmackDown on Friday night. He was spotted in the background in one of the segments in Nick Aldis's office. We don't know what they talked about, but when Aldis walked in there, Cody was already in there waiting for him. Then later on, Cody comes out to make the save for LA Knight during a beatdown angle with the Bloodline, and he's standing side by side in the ring with LA Knight. Where I thought maybe this was going, especially when I saw Cody in the back, is that if not Randy Orton as their partner, was Cody asking Nick Aldis to unsuspend Kevin Owens, who in storyline was just suspended for beating up Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, unsuspend Kevin Owens and allow him to be on his team. If he got wind, if we assume he got wind that McIntyre might be joining the Judgment Day to make it 5-on-4, he would want Kevin Owens in to be their fifth man. And then Randy Orton, you could have him wrestle, Shinsuke Nakamura. He could be the surprise opponent for Nakamura, let's say, at Survivor Series. And with Aldis allowing one of his stars, if he said yes, with him allowing one of his stars to wrestle in the Raw brand WarGames match, then Adam Pearce would reciprocate by allowing Becky Lynch to be part of a SmackDown brand WarGames. So think of it as like a one-night trade, right? And some cooperation between the GMs. Because at least then, what we saw on Friday night would make some sense. As it stands, that does not appear to be the case. So what does LA Knight, for example, what does LA Knight do at Survivor Series, right? That spot that Cody came out in on Friday night, it just looked perfectly earmarked for an AJ Styles return, and there was no AJ Styles. If it was AJ Styles, then we would get LA Knight and AJ Styles in a tag match at Survivor Series against Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa. And that would be pretty fucking lame, because we just saw that match at Fastlane. Just replace John Cena with AJ Styles, and it's the same thing. But I don't know what else you do with LA Knight unless you leave him off the card completely, and that would be wild to me, to go from having Roman Reigns and LA Knight in the main event of your Saudi Arabia show to not having either one of them on your sold-out Survivor Series show in Chicago a few weeks later. It's just wild to me. But I think Team Cody gets the win. Whoever the fifth man is, if in fact there is a fifth man added, Team Cody is going to win the match. What I'm predicting is a reversal of last year. Last year, we had the Bloodline, the heel men's faction. They went over in the WarGames match, and the babyfaces won on the women's side. I think this year it's going to be the exact opposite. I think Damage CTRL is going to win, and I think the Judgment Day is going to lose, and Team Cody is going to go over. And no, I don't believe CM Punk is going to be at Survivor Series. Maybe the most important prediction of all, the answer is no. But I will be on YouTube to review Survivor Series. And I'll tell you what, if CM Punk shows up at Survivor Series, I'll be the first person to admit that I was wrong. I'll come on the air and I'll eat crow. And I'll have to enjoy the taste of it. But I don't believe that he is going to be there. I think you're going to have people that'll have CM Punk signs. I think you'll hear some CM Punk chants. But I don't believe he is going to be on the show.